Hey everybody, it's me, Andy.
And I'm Sean.
And this is the Commander's Brew.
This week, Estrid the Masked.
Hey everyone, we're back with another brew this week. If you're liking what you're seeing here on YouTube, go ahead and click subscribe or ding that bell if you want to get those notifications for when we have new content.
And if you love what we do, consider donating on Patreon. Patreon.com/commandersbrew. Here's our deck.
All right, here we go.
So, in another C18, I went back in time 2 years, deck rebrew, we're taking the Bant Enchantments deck and we're redoing it. And this time I'm keeping the Planeswalker commander of Estrid the Masked. So Estrid is the sort of face of the deck. Her shorn head face of the deck. 1 green, white, blue. Planeswalker Estrid. Estrid can be your commander. She starts with 3 loyalty counters, and you can +2 to untap each enchanted permanent you control. Cool. You can -1 create a white aura enchantment token named Mask attached to another target permanent. The token has enchant permanent and totem armor, which means if this permanent was destroyed, you get rid of the mask instead, and it's not destroyed. And then her -7 is put the top 7 cards of your library into your graveyard, return all non-aura enchantment cards to your graveyard and to the battlefield, and then do the same for the aura cards. And they word it that way because auras, like, you might put a creature enchantment down first, and then the aura can enchant the creature. If they all happen at the same time, they wouldn't be able to enchant the things that just came back.
Yeah, there'd be nothing there for them.
Great. So what are we doing with the deck? The deck that came with the C18 Precon, there's a lot of cool stuff in there, but we're going to use some of those, but not a ton of them, and we're going to refocus the deck. Here's what we're going to do. When I look at this, I realized I wanted little packages of cards, so I made 5
So you made
packages.
like little packages, like little
little card
wrappers,
packages.
Card packs?
In my mind, they were wrapped up like little booster packs, and in each little booster pack, in my mind, had 1 enchantress card that helps you draw cards when enchantments come in, 1 bouncy enchantment, which I can return to my hand and cast again to gain advantage of those triggers, draw more cards, do more things, 1 land ramp enchantment card, that is to say an aura that goes on a land that helps tap from a mana. That's how we're ramping, and because of Estrid's untap ability, that's good ramp for us. And 1 giant hexproof / trample thing so that our opponents can't spot remove it, and so that I can trample through chump blockers and just make them massive and destroy our opponents that way.
This is kind of like when you buy like a taco kit.
Yes, it's a little taco
and all the
kit.
parts are like there, and this is what you do with this, and there's the spices, and here's the shells, and here's the special sauce, and then you buy your package of meat or whatever, and then you get your vegetables and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to slice up some jalapenos, that's on you.
That's on you. That's up to you. Yeah. But
Okay,
here's my version of the taco kit.
Great. So I'll give you 1 taco kit. I'll give you 1 sort of like package there. We'll kind of take turns talking about it. So what my favorite enchantress is actually not named an enchantress. It's Eidolon of Blossoms. 2 green, enchantment spirit, which is a 2/2 enchantment creature. And it has Constellations. So Constellations, great. Whenever any enchantment, including this one, comes into the battlefield, something happens for Constellation. And in this case, we draw a card. Obviously, that's what enchantresses are all about. So this is my favorite of the enchantresses.
Unless you're Yavi Maya Enchantress, in which case you don't care about drawing cards at all. In fact, I'm pretty sure the only card called Enchantress in this deck doesn't draw you cards.
That might be true.
I think because it's missing, it doesn't have Argothian Enchantress and it doesn't have Mesa Enchantress, which are 2 of the
That's true.
card drawing enchantresses. Anyways, that's weird.
Yeah.
But not this deck. This is the brewed. This is the different brewed version deck. But if you buy this out of the box, that's the case. Anyways.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Andy, why don't you take my favorite bouncy enchantment?
Ooh, okay. So this is Enchantress players are going to be familiar with this one if they're running blue. It's Shimmering Wings. It's a great card. 1 single blue for an aura that enchants a creature, and the enchanted creature has flying, and you can pay 1 blue to return Shimmering Wings to its owner's hand.
Right. So
This is great. I love this ability on auras. First of all, just to protect them in case you don't want them to go to the graveyard, obviously. And I think that's probably the original intention behind these types of cards, because there's a couple that do this. But Shimmering Wings is so great just because of that bounce ability. You're gonna be able to replay this a ton of times.
yeah, so I mean, it is blue specifically. It's always blue, but I think this is a great way to trigger those enchantresses to draw a whole bunch of cards. I love it. And I love that it's as cheap as we can get it. It's just 2 mana total.
Yep.
Oh, and then keep in mind, too, one of our win cons is Trampley Hexproof things. So giving a Trampley Hexproof thing flying is just bonus.
All the more better, right? The more evasion, the better.
My favorite land aura enchantment as part of our taco kit is Overgrowth. We thought about this when our friend Scott played the deck out of the box, and we're like, wait, this adds 2 mana? Here's what it is. 2 and a green for an enchant land enchantment aura. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds green to his or her mana pool. So you get 3 mana out of this one land. At least. You might get 4 if the land already taps for 2. So with Estrid, this is her +2 ability gets you 3 additional mana.
Yeah. Basically what you're doing here is, and what we were kind of like, oh wow, that's really good, is this is the cost of a Cultivate and or a Kadama's Reach. Or even if you want to say a
explosive vegetation.
Yeah, or that's one more. But
through cost-wise, yeah.
Yeah, and this is a Farhaven Elf, which gets you 1. So each of those things will get you 1 land tapped into play, and then the other, obviously, the Cultivate and Kadama's Reach put in your hand. Overgrowth gives you the 2 mana, possibly that turn. You can, if you have 4 lands available to you, 4 mana available to you, you can even spend that next, that Overgrowth mana that turn as well and cast another 3 mana spell. So,
and if Estrid's on the battlefield, you can untap it and use it even another time still. So
exactly. And I think I've basically been ignoring cards like this forever.
I don't have one in a single deck.
No, me neither. Nothing like this. Because mostly they just add the 1 more, and because they're a permanent on the battlefield, sometimes things are able to destroy them and all that. But really, they're kind of just artifact ramp in a way, right? They're attached to your land. So yeah, if someone's got a wasteland thing going on, they might be able to get you. But I think for the most part, these are pretty safe to play. As safe as artifact ramp, certainly. So you can have your artifacts blown up, but it's not really a reason to not run artifact ramp. Right. I would argue it's probably the same thing for these enchantments, these auras that go on your lands. It's they can get destroyed, but they're not like creatures. They're not dying from Wrath of God or something, right? So this is a pretty great return on 3 mana. It's a pretty good 3 mana ramp spell, I gotta say.
I think so.
The ones that add excellent. 1 more and fix might not be as good, because then you would probably rather have a Farhaven Elf or a Cultivate or something like that, right? But this one specifically that adds 2 is pretty impressive.
But in our taco kits, we do have 5 of them because it's important that every package is complete.
You got to have it for the full taco experience.
Let's talk about what's one of our trample hexproofs.
This is a good one. You want hexproof, you want trample, look no further than Sagu Mauler. 4 green blue for a 6/6 beast with trample and hexproof. So he's got it all already on native to Sagu Mauler. But also Sagu Mauler is a morph creature, so you can actually cast him for 3 colorless face down and then flip him up for 3 green and blue, so for 5. So you can actually, if you got nothing else to do on that turn 3, you can drop that Sagu Mauler down there as a morph creature and then surprise your opponents.
Yeah, I like that you can drop Sagu Mauler for 3 and start bouncing enchantments off of it if you have card draw going until you're able to untap it if you want. It's always nice to have flexibility.
Yeah, definitely having trample and hexproof natively on a creature is really good for an aura deck. It's really
well.
Really
as we'll get into later, there aren't 5 of these. There aren't 5 creatures that have both trample and hexproof natively, but there sort of are. We'll talk about those in a second.
Okay,
but cool. I couldn't find a full 5 that just list that.
I'm excited to see what those cards are. All right.
Sure. Okay, well, now that's the basic packages, that's the heart of the deck. But now it's time to talk for some neat moves.
Working on a
Neat.
move.
All right, what are we doing with those remaining spots outside of our taco packages? The neat moves, the jalapenos, the black olives, the fancy sour cream. This is all the stuff we're going to do with that.
The creme fraiche.
The creme fraiche. One of our bouncy enchantments is not just a simple 2-mana one. I want to talk about Attunement. 2 and a blue for an enchantment that just goes onto the battlefield anywhere. I mean, where enchantments go, they just kind of have their own space. It says, and then we can return Attunement to its owner's hand as the cost of this activated ability, and the effect is draw 3 cards, then choose and discard 4 cards. So that bounces for free. Like, we can return that to our hand at any time for no actual game cost. Then we draw 3 cards, choose and discard 4 cards. Now, if we have an enchantment, an enchantress or 2 out, that actually becomes sort of, in the big picture, draw 4 cards, then discard 4 cards. Mm-hmm. It becomes looting. And if we have 2 enchantresses, we're up on cards. And as in most commander decks, Estrid's ultimate pulls enchantments out of the graveyard. So putting more things in the graveyard is not a bad thing for the deck.
That is true. So, oh wow, crazy. Yeah, it does. All right, that's awesome. I forgot that she did it to all things in your graveyard and not just the stuff she puts there. That's cool.
Right. Yeah. So this future stacks Estrid's ultimate if you're ready to go. And it balances itself for 3 overall, which is more than 2, but the effect of cycling through 4 cards, if there's an enchantress out, is amazing.
There's one thing we saw with these commander decks. So we last week we played with them, a couple of them, and we saw that the ultimates did happen.
Yeah,
like they didn't happen every game, but they and they weren't, like, I wouldn't say that they were easy to get or something. It's not like, they just happened in the second turn you had them or something like that. But you'd set up, then you'd cast your commander, and then you people wouldn't be able to get attacks in or something like that. And then we saw Lord Windgrace's ultimate go off. We saw Estrid's ultimate go off. So we saw some things happen here. So it's not impossible. It's certainly not as hard, I think, in a normal deck that isn't based around a planeswalker. What's the next neat move here?
Do you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. Lands. This one is first of all, we got Animal Boneyard, which is 2 and a white. It's an enchantment that enchants a land. It's an aura, obviously. Enchanted land has tap, sacrifice a creature. You gain life equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. So it actually kind of turns it into a high market, but you'll actually gain more life off of it. And this one works well with Chamber of Manipulation. It's an aura that also,
or as we like to call it, Chamber of Manipulation.
Chamber of Manipulation. It also enchants a land and goes, enchanted land has tap, discard a card, gain control of target creature until end of turn. So it turns any card into your hand into a threaten effect, essentially. You don't untap it, though, which is important. So you can't attack with a tapped creature or something first. But obviously, you grab it with the Manipulation, and then you toss it in the old Animal Boneyard.
Yep.
And then we're gaining life, and they're losing creatures, and everyone's happy.
And if we have Estrid out, her +2 untaps both those lands, and we get to do it twice in a turn.
This is great. I love it. This is amazing.
Neat move.
Very neat move.
And then the discarding a card part is not too big a deal, because in a few test runs of this deck, having of multiple enchantresses, we can gain cards quite efficiently in this deck.
Yeah, that was one thing I noticed when Scott was playing too. He was drawing a ton of cards with this deck.
Yeah, a ton.
Absolutely, so many. And then again, and that's they're missing 2 of the main enchantresses from the precon. Yep. So yeah, you'll draw a lot.
So let's talk about a couple of things. Estrid's minus ability puts masks on things. But the main combo is once anything is wearing a mask, we get to untap it with her plus ability on subsequent turns. So let's talk about some cool cards that wear masks very well. How about JCs Archivist? 1 blue for a Vidalcan Wizard, it's 2/2. And for blue and tap, each player discards his or her hand, then draws equal to the greatest number of cards discarded this way. And if we've got Estrid up on our turn, we can do this again before a full turn cycle is completed. And again, Estrid doesn't mind things in the graveyard.
Nope, not at all. And this is just a very strong ability to dig through your deck and try and find the cards that you really want. Like maybe you don't have an Enchantress out yet. JC's Archivist is going to help you find that. I can't read the flavor text not in the guy that Mr. Burns runs the bumper cars into in that Simpsons episode.
That's a deep cut. I don't.
This is a sacred duty. Master Bellowin's trust has bought an eternity of my loyalty. Oh, Master Burns! Remember? Oh, what was I laughing at again? Oh, yes, that crippled Irishman. Oh, Master Bellerin, his trust has brought me an eternity of loyalty. Anyways, next neat move here is Nile. Or no, So we also have Windfall.
Windfall is another JC's Archivist thing,
yes,
right? It's
exactly.
the same effect, and that leads to like another part of this neat move. Andy, do you want to take this one?
The next part of this neat move is Drake Haven, 2 and a blue, and it's for an enchantment that says whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying.
Right, I can tie that back to Attunement. There's a lot of ways we're just sort of discarding cards. There's a few wheels in this deck as well. And if we have Drake Haven out, which will draw us a card with Enchantresses out there, we just get to decide, oh, you know what? I'm not doing anything end of turn. I'll activate JC's Archivist and make 6 or 7 Drakes.
Yeah, and the cool thing is even without those wheel cards, like we said, like if you have a couple an Enchantress or 2 out, which is not, again, that's not like some weird corner case. Like you often do actually have 2 things that draw you cards like this out. You might have to discard at the end of turn, in which case you just basically turning those cards into Drakes just kind of naturally also. You actually won't need to force it too much. So I like this inclusion. This is cool.
Well, you started with this one. Why don't you finish reading this off? This is our preview card.
I was just so stoked to get to our preview card, Nylea's Colossus. This 6 and a green, so 7 mana total for the 6/6 enchantment creature giant with Constellation that says whenever Nylea's Colossus or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, double target creature's power and toughness until end of turn. Well, when we got this card, I knew this was going to be a huge card in this deck. I knew it was going to be really good, but I did not know how good it was going to be. So whether or not you're looking at a Voltron strategy, it doesn't even really matter because Nylea's Colossus is basically a Voltron strategy in and of itself. It'll either give itself or like a Sagu Mauler, like you said. With Trample and Hexproof was obviously really good, but you're going to be able to get this doubling thing happening so much. It's ridiculous. Especially if you're bouncing, Shimmering Wings or anything like that. Any of those things are going to make the creatures that then those auras will go on absolutely massive because of Nylea's Colossus. This ended up being, I'd say, the best card in the deck straight out of the box, right? And I think that's
say so.
Basically going to be true for a lot of enchantment-based decks that are going to be running green from here on out. Nylea's Colossus is an incredibly good card.
Yeah, like with Shimmering Wings, like I said, it only costs you 2 mana. Well, it costs you 1 mana to cast it, and then 2 more mana to get it cast a second. So it's like an odd number.
Yeah, so 3 total 5. Will get you 2 doubles.
Right, and if you have 5 blue mana, and then a lot of so Overgrowth didn't, but a lot of the other enchantment land ramps let you pick any color as well. So we can use blue if we need blue, or white if we need white for something else. But man, 2 or 3 doubles on a hexproof trampler means an opponent has to have instant speed mass removal or a fog or make you sack all your attacking creatures or something. There are far less answers to that than, right? So that's just a win right there.
It really is, and we did see that firsthand in one of the games we played where Nylea's Colossus just unchecked. This card is incredibly good.
Yep. And then Whitewater Naiads is another Constellation card in the deck that also suits our purpose here. 3 blue for an enchantment creature Nymph, which starts as a 4/4, but this has Constellation as well. Whenever on this or another enchantment enters the battlefield, target creature can't be blocked this turn. So even if we can't maybe double it with Nylea's Colossus, so maybe it would be like, well, you might gang block and kill it. Well, I'll just make a few of my tramplers unblockable anyway, so you're going to take 12 or 24 points of damage. And then Siege Behemoth is one of our trampler hexproof, sort of. Siege Behemoth is 5 green for a 7/4 beast with hexproof, but wait, not trample. Hang on. As long as Siege Behemoth is attacking, for each creature you control, you may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So it's not technically trample, but it's almost better than trample because we get to put all of the damage past the creatures.
Absolutely, yeah. That's people playing with what is it? Dominaria. There's the creature that does that.
Oh yes. And to me, the top feature is hexproof. I'm okay to give it trample other ways, but to me the most important thing is hexproof, because we don't want anyone doing a swords to plowshares after you've made your 40-40 trampling thing, right? We want to restrict their ability to answer it, and hexproof is how we're going to do that.
Oh, one thing we have to remember about Siege Behemoth, actually, I just remembered, is that for cards like this, and because this is not how I thought they worked at first, when it says you can assign its damage as though it weren't blocked, that means you decide you assign all damage to the player. Like, you can't say, oh, I'll still assign 2 damage here and 2 damage here,
right? And
then I'll assign 4. Like, it doesn't work like trample. It doesn't work like a weird version of trample. You deal no damage to the creatures blocking you if you decide to deal it to the player instead.
Yes, we're going to assume that the player will be dead after this.
Yes, of course.
So their creatures will die anyway.
Just in case, though, because that's how, for some reason, I thought it worked when I first saw this wording.
Fair. Good clarification. So one more neat move I want to address. We're drawing lots of cards. Like, there's the ability to draw a ton of cards. So these 2 cards go up a lot. Do you want to take the first one?
Sure. The first one here is Solitary Confinement. It's an enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Solitary Confinement unless you discard a card. You skip your draw step. You have Shroud and prevent all damage that would be dealt to you.
Yeah, so no one can target you. No one can target you, damage you. So the one thing is we have to discard a card.
You also need to discard a card. Oof.
And we skip our draw step. However, if we have an Enchantress and a bouncy enchantment going, we get to draw more than 2 cards a turn anyway. It's not very hard to do that. So we would only play this if it was like an emergency. I mean, we have no way to get rid of it either. So like this is an emergency only. Or once we feel like the game is getting pretty locked in, let's just lock it in further. This is a card we can play. And there's 2 other cards that ask us, one other card that asks us to discard cards that I want to pair with another enchantment. Island Sanctuary, 1 and a white. It's an enchantment. And it says, if you would draw a card during your draw step, instead you may skip that draw. So we have the choice to skip our draw. If you do, until your next turn, you can't be attacked except by creatures with flying and or island walk. It's like we live on a little island and no one can get to us unless they fly or island walk over to us.
And I know another card that would actually even make this a little better.
What's that?
It just so happens to be the next card that you have featured here, because I just thought of it even without even looking ahead, and it's Sandworm Convergence.
Yeah.
6 green for the enchantment that says creatures with flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control, and at the beginning of your end step, you create a 5/5 green worm creature token. So that means you're on a little island, and there's no airways. We got no airports. Sorry, you can't land here. There's no flying in to this airport, or this island rather. You have to swim with Island Walk.
Right. Unfortunately, because we're a Planeswalker deck, Island Sanctuary doesn't protect Planeswalkers. Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately, they can still come at Estrid, and that's their only option. But if we have enough hexproof tramply things enchanted with flying, we can hope that we've got enough defense that they won't try to do that.
This is what happens, right? You get a couple of these creatures up, they become just too big to attack into, and that makes your Planeswalker pretty safe.
Yeah, it's true. And even if they do, like if they're like, well, I can send everything I have at Estrid, but I can't send any at you, so I guess I will. And then you're like, okay, fine, Estrid's gone, and now I've still got Nylea's Colossus, a bouncy enchantment, and a hexproof, so like you still have to deal with it or I'm going to kill you.
Wicked.
Wicked.
So any surprises or discoveries for this deck?
Yeah, I want to talk about Cephalad Constable, 1 blue, Cephalad Wizard who is 1/1. Whenever Cephalad Constable deals combat damage to a player, return up to that many target permanents that player controls to their owner's hands. If we've got our engine up and running, this card becomes amazing because we can put we do have a little bit of equipment on here, for example, Loxodon Warhammer to up to give trample and to up the power. So if we can start cephalad up at like 4 power and then maybe start doubling it with Nylea's Colossus, it's a tall order, but if it's on the table, we can return all of our opponent's lands to their hand.
Yeah.
This thing can target lands, which is why I wanted to highlight it. It takes a bit of hoops to jump through to get it going, but if you can, this will wreck a player.
That is, that is a tall order at a 1/1, but it's actually not that hard to do in this deck. We basically saw it happen. Again, fresh out of the box. The next one looks like it's Abolish, a white for an instant that says you may discard a plains card rather than pay Abolish's mana cost, and you can destroy a target, artifact, or enchantment. So you can do this at instant speed for the cost of discarding a plains card.
And again, since we're drawing a ton of cards, there's a good chance we're able to draw an extra one. And if you can just sandbag one for your Abolish that no one will see coming, love it.
Good to note. Good to note that you have this as a possibility, because there are definitely some times where you want to get that artifact or enchantment your opponents have at instant speed, and Abolish just makes sure that you're going to be able to do that, basically.
Truly.
Okay. Well, it's time
3 stars
for
time?
the 3 stars.
Okay, do you want to take the star number 3?
Yeah, star number 3 of the deck. We are looking at Forbid. 1 blue for the instant with buyback of discard 2 cards. Counter target spell. Just a solid, hard counter that in a pinch you can get back, keep it in your hand to protect your board state and the things that you have going on. As we talked about, discarding is not necessarily a really huge drawback in this deck. We're going to be drawing lots of cards, and having a couple enchantments in the graveyard is not a bad thing. So Forbid, generally, if you can get 2 counters out of Forbid, you're pretty happy. You don't need.
Yeah.
It's not something you need to keep doing, but if you can get 2 out of it, that's nice.
Dream. Star number 2, Helm of the Host.
Whoa, of course.
4 mana for an artifact. It's legendary. It's equipment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature. The token isn't legendary, which means we can copy anything there is. If the equipped creature is legendary, right? And then so that token also gains haste. We get to attack with it and equips for 5. We can put this on Nylea's Colossus and double things twice when Constellation. We can put this on any of our enchantresses and double the amount of card draw we have, and then triple, and then quadruple. We can put this on any of our giant tramplers just to make our army even more hexproof and even bigger, right? There are so many excellent... There isn't a bad target for this in the deck.
I just want to say real quick that I love that Helm of the Host is still only $2.
Yes.
Like, I know it's not getting played in standard or anything, and that's why, but I just love it that this is a commander-only card, and it's pretty cheap still. Yeah. It's not dirt cheap, but it's, it's affordable. And so don't, like, if that might change in the future, like, just grab your Helms of the Host. Go get them. And the number 1 star of the deck is Arbiter of the Ideal. 4 blue for the Sphinx, the 4/5 flyer. With Inspired, another Theros mechanic that works really well with enchantments, it turns out, especially in this deck. Whenever Arbiter of the Ideal becomes untapped, reveal the top card of your library. If it's an artifact, creature, or land card, you may put it onto the battlefield with a manifestation counter on it. That permanent is an enchantment in addition to its other types. So, obviously, we're looking at Estrid's untappability here. Arbiter of the Ideal, I know this card really well. It does what you want it to do. If you build a deck full of permanents, Arbiter of the Ideal will get you stuff off the top of your deck just about every time. And this is definitely the only deck I've ever seen where the manifestation counter will make a big difference.
Yeah, that triggers Constellation.
Yep.
It's a free trigger for Nylea's Colossus at the beginning of your turn if you're planning on attacking that turn.
If you have anything that cares about the number of enchantments, which I know that can exist in this type of deck, Arbiter of the Ideal is something to look at. I mean, yeah, makes you wonder why it wasn't put in the deck in the first place. The precon. Whoa, okay, we're not going to get into that again. But yeah, Arbiter of the Ideal, what a absolutely kind of underrated card in Commander in general, but when you put it in the right deck, when you put it in something that can abuse that inspired ability, this is a great card.
Truly.
Free stuff off the top of your library. Who doesn't like that?
Free stuff.
I love free stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, now it is time for the budget report.
This is the part of the show where we take all the cards, see which ones are enchantments and which ones don't belong.
Which ones have manifestation counters on them and which ones do not.
Right, so this deck is actually shockingly cheap. This deck came in at $85.49, all in. And how many of the 100 cards... Sorry, 99. I don't always count the commander in this. I should start doing that. How many of the 99 cards make up half the value of the deck? 6. If you cut the top 6 cards, this deck is half price. The top 3 most expensive cards, one of them is a standard powerhouse right now. It's Carnage Tyrant, most expensive card, 4 green for a dinosaur. It's 7/6, can't be countered, trample, hexproof. So as I said, there are so few creatures that actually have trample hexproof. I included this one because it does, but because it's currently in standard and very powerful, so it's a $20 card. But I guarantee that's going to come down once it rotates in like 2 years.
Guaranteed. 2 years.
I don't know. When does Ixalan rotate? A very long time.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty long, but I don't think it's 2 years quite. Is it? Maybe it might
at least a year.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. Anyway, so Carnage Tyrant, though, I'm so surprised to even see you thinking of a card like this, but that's just that's a result of the new show format. Like, yeah. I'm shocked that I even saw this card on our show, but I guess I should get used to that.
I wanted to complete the taco packages.
Yeah, the taco package is complete with this, and it's crazy though that 6 cards make up half the cost of this deck, and I'm guessing Carnage Tyrant is a big part of that. You know what else is a big part of that? Solitary Confinement, the second most expensive card in the deck. This is the one we talked about earlier that gives you Shroud and skips your draw step and everything like that. $10.
A risky card for sure, but it's $10.
$10, yeah. Definitely part of some. I think this is part of like a weird. This is part of a combo I've seen before.
Oh, I'm sure someone's figured out a wacky way to break this. I'm just not that clever.
Yeah, no, it's a all or nothing card. It's really all in, and $10 as a result. So that right there is like $30 of the deck.
Yeah,
just
right?
those 2 cards.
Yeah, third most expensive card is Estrid's Invocation, 2 and a blue for an enchantment. This is a brand new card they made for the deck in the precon. You may have Estrid's Invocation enter the battlefield as a copy of any enchantment you control, except it gains. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may exile this enchantment. If you do, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So it, in your upkeep, bounces itself. So it is in itself a bouncy enchantment, but it also gets to double your best thing. It can double as, your Nylea's Colossus, which is an enchantment. It can double as a different bouncy, and you can just bounce them both if you want. So Estrid's Invocation, extremely flexible, and it's worth the $5 for sure.
It is. This card's really good. Very excited about this card. It's awesome. But yeah, there you go. Take out 6 cards. You're looking at an old Commander's Brew style $45 deck there.
Yeah, and we can make strong cases for cutting the first 2 anyway. So really, this deck is about a $50 deck. It's about a $50
deck. Yeah, good one, Sean. Way to go. All right, well that's
minus Estrid. I don't think I counted Estrid.
Okay, well I think Estrid's only a couple bucks anyways. I think.
I don't know.
Anyways, thanks for listening this week, everyone.
Yeah.
And watching on YouTube, of course. We'll be back next week with a brand new brew. But until then, we'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
Big thanks to all our patrons who make these episodes possible.
Yeah, and if you want to check out more comedy videos, check out our Brews News playlist.
Make sure you follow us on Twitch TV to see when we play live.
If you want to chat with us, head over to Twitter. We're at Commanders Brew.
And please hit subscribe to ding the bell and find out when we got new stuff coming out.
See you next time.
Bye.